till death us do part.
What ho chaps, I'm MagicalMike and welcome back to the finale, Act 4 and the Epilogue of Discworld 2, Missing Presumed, or Mortality Bites. Yes, death has become a little bit too mortal because we've gone a little bit too far towards his job, and things have shifted. The patrician has ordered his death because either he was too popular or too terrible, we'll never know. And now we've got to save his life, which involves quite an easy puzzle, actually.
A folk festival for death. Whatever will they think of next?
So we're back on the disc, no longer in Death's domain. The vultures are back wandering around after us, because we still have that that arm in our inventory, which will be useful, by the way. We can go anywhere we choose.
Aha! 4X. A land of surf, sand and flies.
We can go back to Ankh-Morpork if we like. We can basically go anywhere we like, but there's really only 2 places we need to go. 3 places we need to go. Bonestock, Jelly Baby, and somewhere else. But first, let's go to Bonestock. Or Death. So yeah, Death. Death in soul music, I believe, is the only other time that he's gotten close to, like, being mortal, and he actually openly celebrated the chance he got to spend his time, because he finally got time to spend. He's a timeless being, he's just an anthropomorphic existence, really. So, yeah. It's funny, he's probably welcoming death at this point because it's an interesting experience for him. Mind you, he doesn't really want it. He's just sort of going along with the flow.
He made a dreadful death, but he might make someone a damn fine desk ornament.
I don't think he did make a dreadful death. I think he made a really good death.
I wonder if there's any market for xylophones these days.
It's a funny joke, Rincewind, but Death himself has actually made that joke on occasion on his own. Actually, Susan was made to witness Death playing his xylophone ribcage at some point. Can we take any of these?
I better leave his bones alone. At least until the men in white coats have chalked around them.
Do you imagine chalking around all these individual bones? Very silly. Yeah, it's still smoking after its explosion. The crowd's gone. Nothing else to examine, apart from this cork and this hat.
Ew. I'm sure that this hat must be in fashion somewhere, which is the scary aspect of the whole wretched thing.
And the cork?
New improved cork. The accessory with 1,000,000 household uses.
Well, let's take these things, because they might come in handy.
No point. It's blown to shreds.
Never mind, the hat's dead. How about the cork? The cork is useful. Great. How's our inventory looking? Well, we've got an hourglass and we've got a cork. We'll actually have a look at that in a bit. Let's chat to Death first.
Ooh, I'm going. I'm going. Oh, here I go. I'm still going, you know.
All right. Something to fill up your hourglass. I'm working on it. Honestly, you think nothing was done around here without me? Once, just once, I'd like to see an adventure based on Rincewind stays in bed and gets some kip while everyone else runs around and collects stupid objects on his behalf.
Well, that's probably not going to happen, let's be real.
A cork. Better in than out, as they say. Feels all corky to me.
Corky indeed. Why we've still got a bunch of these items, I'll never know. Like the mouse, the surfboard. I keep coming back to that mouse because it's just such a strange red herring. Just a weird one. We got this hourglass.
Odd. Why does Death have an hourglass? A little redundant, I would have thought. Gee, there's hardly any sand left.
Sand. So we're looking for sand to refill his hourglass with. Obviously none of these items are going to work.
Strike.
Ooh, what if we set fire to it?
Setting fire to that won't help.
Obviously not. Okay, so we can't do that. That's everything we needed here. We did. We have some ideas. Obviously this is a desert. What, could we just not take any old sand and just fill it up? The answer to that is No, we can't. But we did hear about something a long time ago in Act 2 that was kind of a weird red herring at the time, but actually is now useful. So, let's head all the way back to Djeli Baby, child of the Djeli. And let's hang out for just a second while these vultures argue with each other. See, if we just chill for a little bit, you'll see Rincewind will take cover and hide from something. Now this will happen if you just wander around anyway, but I might as well just stand here and show you the animation too. Here we go, luggage is moving, Rincewind's moving too. Who's this guy? This guy's new. Off he goes, wandering off. Alright, cool, let's follow him. Actually, he doesn't... I could walk into here and trigger the scene transition, but he's not in there. He's also not over here either, but I am going over here to remind us. Ooh, hello Casamunda.
I'm in the mood for frogs. Yeah, frogs are the things I've been thinking of. But they're so small and green, and they reign supreme in this crazy Casananda's house of love. Oh, oh, oh!
Ooh, much better.
Yes, yes.
Ooh, I like this one. Quite right. Plenty enough to go around.
How'd you cook it? Sage and onions?
Sage and onions? In the middle of the desert?
Oh, turmeric, rose water and onions then. Come on.
Yes.
Whoops! Well, there goes Casananda. I'd watch what happens next, but I'll probably be here for days.
Yeah, let's not. This is also just slightly interrupting. We see this guy, he didn't walk past us, and he isn't inside the camel merchant's place, so he kind of doesn't exist while he's in Djeli Baby. So off he goes. There he's gone. I do really quickly want to go and chat to Yuri Djela, forgetting his name.
Popping hummus.
We could actually go around the whole disc and talk to basically everyone again, but I don't think anyone has anything new to say, and if they do, it's not going to be interesting or important. This guy is the only one who has anything helpful for us.
Witness the all-powerful mystic-type skills of what would be the Far East if that direction existed here. Watch now as Yuri Djela manipulates the metal objects with the modern powers of his magnificent brain. Strain! 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 Oh, the end has fallen off.
Yes, indeed. This thing, this weird little conversation topic that showed up. This is actually possibly a loose connection to the real Yuri Geller, because the real Yuri Geller eventually offered his services, let's say, in the art of dowsing, which is looking for water, I guess. And that was the fact that I was going to talk about when I was talking about Yuri Geller back in Act 2, but decided against it, and now it's relevant. So perhaps he knows about the Fountain of Youth because he dowsed. Who knows? But we can ask about the Fountain of Youth.
All right, what about these other mystic powers then?
We have their fabulous pyramid powers of time and space. We have the mystic men sitting in deserts, and we have cut-rate camels, although they're not quite so mystic, but they can't half spit.
Oh, really? Is that all?
You want more? Then we have the Fountain of Youth. Yes, indeed, you can get a second childhood without all the dribbling and unfortunate bad type smells.
Now that sounds more like it. Where might I find that?
Oh, I've forgotten.
When they call your people fakers, they're not joking, are they?
How dare you cast aspersions on my mighty powers of, what's it called? It was on the tip of my tongue. Mine's gone blank. Memory. There is a prospector what comes through here every now and again. He goes everywhere. He's been around for centuries. You ask him if he's ever seen a greater sage than Urigella.
And that prospector is the guy that showed up before that Rincewind hid from. We literally can't talk to him. He avoids us. You don't have control while that's happening. So we're going to have to trick him somehow into giving us information to where the Fountain of Youth is located. You could try and follow him on the world map, and I think you can actually see him wandering around if you look really, really carefully, but you can never actually just stumble upon the location of the Fountain of Youth. So we're going to have to find a way of tricking him into telling us that information. And we have just the way of doing it. So let's go back into Jelly Baby and trigger that cutscene again by hanging out and waiting. This is another one of those very rare timed things that we need to do relatively quickly. As you can see, we had the whole cutscene with Casanunda, which may or may not have given us the amount of time that we needed. Who knows? I don't know how long we get, but it should be plenty long enough for us to do what we need to do. And all the information you need is on the task, on the screen. Right now, in fact. So off he goes, that's the prospector. First of all, we're going to rob his saddlebags.
Funny looking horse. A pair of saddlebags. Paired, of course, so you can lose twice as many articles as if you were carrying a single.
Or maybe for balance. Let's rob him.
Hey, look, a canteen!
Great, we've got a canteen. And now, to find where he's going to go, robbing the canteen, by the way, will make him go out and recover what he's just lost somewhere. But we've grabbed this, because we're going to shove the rotten arm into the saddlebags. Job done. Those vultures are following us, because we have the rotten arm. But if we shove it into his saddlebags, they're going to follow him. And now we get a nice aerial view of where the hell he's going. Off they go. Off we go too. Now we get a nice view of where he's going. Nice, easy to pinpoint. Watch him on the world map, because presumably you could just look to the sky and see the vultures. For now it's very easy to watch where he goes, and I think if you don't put the arm into the saddlebags, you'll just lose him at this point. But you can see the vultures still. They reveal the Fountain of Youth to us. So yeah, stealing his canteen will make him go off and go back to the Fountain of Youth to refill it presumably, or get more water that he's now missing. And shoving the arm in actually lets us follow him, because beyond the hills you can't.
Well, it'll sure make a change from bottled mineral water.
So, this is pretty much all of Act 4. There's really not much left. We just need to go to the Fountain of Youth. Here we are.
That leads back to the Discworld.
As if we're not actually in the Discworld right now. There's some weird parts about Act 4. It and the Epilogue are sometimes really, really quiet. That's just a thing that the game has seemingly got going on with it. And yeah, also another weird thing is this tree.
This place looks like a good place to sleep.
Why in the world is that the observation that Rincewind gives? Again, probably the last thing that you actually need to keep in mind here as to why that even is a thing. But he's talked about wanting to go to sleep throughout the whole game, so that's not too far off, right?
Maybe I could take a nap later when I finish this game.
Yeah, he still just wants to go to sleep. Anyway.
A pedestal! I've always wanted to be placed on one of these. Hey, it already has something on it.
It does indeed. It has a fountain.
There's lots of sand in the bottom. The water is spurting up through a little hole in the base. I can't hold water in my bare hands, and I'll only get wet trying to get some sand.
Right, those are the two things that we can interact with, and we've picked up precisely two things. A canteen, which I don't think I examined.
Water. Well, it's wet, runs downhill, and you can see through it. Would you want a chemical analysis?
Maybe I do, because we're going to fill it up with the water from the Fountain of Youth, right?
Nah, thanks, I'm not thirsty.
So, let's do just that. Water from the Fountain of Youth. Should be an extremely valuable commodity, yeah? Good stuff.
A canteen. canteen full of water from the Fountain of Youth. No thanks, the last thing I want is to live forever through one of these games.
Now you might think we can just go and give that to Death, but no, that won't work. We actually need to do something else instead, which we're going to plug the fountain for. Revealing some sand.
Sand? Well, at least it's honest, crumbled up silica, not that Deb Polyp stuff from 4X.
Right.
I need something to put it in first.
Sand. I am going to save the game, LP Act 4, because this is basically the last thing we're going to do in Act 4. It is that quick. It really is. And if I wasn't talking my way through it, it'd have been even quicker, right? So yeah.
Odd. Why does Death have an hourglass? A little redundant, I would have thought. Gee, there's hardly any sand left.
How do you give Death more time? Or what if you just shoved more sand into his hourglass? But not any old sand. It has to be sand from the Fountain of Youth. Very, very magical sand. Cool looking hourglass too. Job done. Should his eyes be blue? Ah, there we go. Oh, just as advertised, having a nice sleep. Unfortunately, we're not a popular person, it seems. So, well, it's been good knowing you guys. Hey, the golfing stuff came up. It paid off.
Oh, damn. I forgot to shout 4.
Epilogue. Queen Kong.
Remember when I drew attention over to the posters of the 50-foot dwarf and the trolls prefer blondes? Now is when you should be remembering those things. So here's the last clicky about Death. Let's see how that went. Did the crowd like it? Did they not? I mean, it's funny that Death is even, like, still making clickies, but there you go. He's gotta get back to his job proper now. Ooh, seems unpopular. Well, whatever worked the first time, let's try that a second time, right? Let's recut it on the fly, shove it back on, see if the crowd enjoy this cut, the director's cut. The Rincewind cut?
Well, I never.
Ooh, I say. Oh, that is
Brilliant. The glamour still works. The illusion still doing its job. Perhaps a little too well. It's all a bit sort of anti-King Kong, isn't it? Brilliant.
I'm not sure whether they spent enough on the script for this movie. It seems to be all just special effects.
Hmm? Is it intermission yet? I was hoping for something nice and sticky on a stick.
The only thing sticky around here is this finale. Get on with it!
Get on with it indeed. Welcome to the epilogue, which I'm able to solve quite quickly as well, but there's still plenty to talk about. Obviously, first question is, why is the Queen able to come to life? Well, as we know, reality is spread very thinly on the disc, so events may be affected by just expectations. As such, the Discworld is not governed by real-world physics or logic, but by belief and narrative resolution. Essentially, if something is believed strongly enough, or by enough people, it may become true. Furthermore, on the disc, if a story or a legend is told often enough and believed by enough people,
Bladders! Get your bladders here!
it can become true too. This is known as the law of narrative causality. So by showing the Elf Queen a whole bunch and making people believe in her with a mystical illusion, that's kind of just brought her into existence. They're also, the power of the theatre is extremely strong, and actually one of the people on the disc who is kind of afraid or dubious is a better word, not afraid, very dubious of the power of theatre is Granny Weatherwax.
Get your bladders here!
Because she knows it's strong, she knows it means people will believe in things, and the 50-foot dwarf and Trolls Prefer Blondes combines together here to create a 50-foot elf queen stealing an orangutan. So it's our job to solve it. So we've got nothing, we've still got a bunch of random items that we could possibly use. Nothing helpful though.
Oh, God! Sorry, got carried away again. I do hope the little fella's okay up there. I'll rescue him soon.
Snappy for a ragman's trumpet. Millennium Hand and Shrimp.
Yes, it is very romantic, isn't it?
Bugger it.
Bugger it.
Front the biscuit for a sneaky trouser. I told them.
You're just an old softy under that crust, aren't you? Of course, she is rather tall, but they do say size isn't important.
Actually, they do make a beautiful pair, you know.
Bugger it.
I mean the librarian and the giant. Do you think we should rescue him, Dean? Well, I was just wondering if we might have to rescue her. Perhaps we'd better just let nature take its course?
Got a horse, did you say? How's he going to get it up that tower with that big woman in the way?
Yeah, that's what happens if you examine the tower. I'm hesitant to double click on it, but we're going to.
I can't just climb up the wall.
Okay, I just didn't want to see the same cutscene again. There's a raven.
Pretty Polly. I'd best leave it alone. Granny might get jealous.
Granny likes animals. But yes, by examining that raven, I have just unlocked a piece of dialogue.
Look at that lot. Like a school of guppies at feeding time.
Luckily, all these people are just labelled as crowd, and
I get confused talking to anybody in this game, let alone a crowd.
we don't need to talk to any of that crowd. None of them. Thankfully, Foul Old Ron is part of it, so we don't need to talk to him either. Mrs. Cake is there, though. She should have seen this coming, surely. Perhaps not. There's the Dibbler, Windle, Granny, a broom. We've still got luggage, of course, and there's nothing else here.
Get your bladders here!
Alright, Dibbler.
My old mate Dibbler. It is my ultimate aim to convince him to sell himself off to the army for target practice.
Alright.
Bladders! Get your bladders here! Only a groat apiece, and even then I'm cutting my own throat.
Bladders? Are you taking the pic? Bladders?
Bladders, my friend, a rustic forerunner of the more familiar rubber balloon, as enjoyed by children. This is absolutely true. Who says computers aren't educational? I've got sheep bladders, vole bladders, moose bladders. You want a bladder? I'm your man.
You know, I believe you.
You can do other things besides blow 'em up, you know. Oh, dozens of uses a good bladder. Although right now I admit I can only think of one or two. One, really.
Right. Maybe, like, using it to relieve yourself, perhaps.
Animal bladders.
That's right, Squire.
There's toys for children.
Wonderful idea, eh?
Look, do you really think this is an appropriate part of an animal's offal to be touting about as a child's toy?
Well, I suppose you're right, sir. But the stomach gets used for haggis and the intestines get used for sausage skins. Wait, brilliant! There's one bit no one ever uses. I can get hold of a pile of them right now.
No, stop right there. This has gone far enough. Bladders I can almost understand, but I will not allow you to run about giving children toys made out of...
Skulls, sir. What's wrong with that? I can make little drums, castanets, little money boxes.
Skulls? Oh, good, right. Well, that's okay then. You just go and sell some animal skulls later on.
It'll have to be later, Squire. I'm still trying to shift all those animal colon footstools I made up yesterday.
That is just horrifying, honestly, and something that Del Boy might do from Only Fools and Horses. Again, strange little thing going on there with David Jason showing up in other Discworld media.
Now that's free enterprise. You see, that's what makes this city great. A man's free to reuse the internal organs of dangerous fauna in any way he sees fit, no matter what the health department says.
Alright, give us a bladder.
Alright, I'd like to buy some bladders, please.
Certainly, Squire. Now then, what sort? We've got your rat, your vole, that's the field vole, meadow vole, and the killer Clatchian vole.
A killer vole?
Oh yeah, you know the ones, 6 feet long, covered in poisonous spines, with incisors like chisel blades.
But I thought voles were sweet little things, you know, small and brown and covered with fur.
Not these ones, sir. Take your arm off in an instant. They've levelled old continents, obliterated ships filled with puppies, baby kittens and innocent nuns.
Wait a minute, these look like sheep bladders. It comes to something when a poor sheep is finding its essential organs floating around as kiddies' balloons.
Sheep, sir? Never, sir. Catch me arming sweet little creatures with curly wool and big brown eyes? Nah, not on my life. Cut me own throat if I tell a lie. These have been taken from Clatchian voles, a life form so foul, sir, so venomous, so putrid and psychotic that the hunters, sir, the hunters were all awarded medals for services to humanity. Clatchian voles is like rabid sharks on legs, sir.
Oh, well, that's all right then. In that case, give me some of them.
Right you are, Squire.
I just hope they had time to go to the lavatory first, though.
Ew. Jeez. So now we've got a bladder.
Animal bladders, empty and deflated. I'm not blowing into those.
Why would you? Alright, we've got Windle.
Get your bladders here.
Undead, but still trying. What are you still doing here?
Doing? Well, I'm not dying, that's for sure. I've tried drowning, I've tried stabbing, I've tried hanging. And that's an extremely boring way to spend a night hanging around.
Yes, well,
Then I tried poison, poison snakes, poison ivy, poison potions. Even tried me some of that deep water blowfish, but do you think I dropped dead? Not a bit of it. I went to the worst reputed restaurant in Ankh-Morpork. And that was hard to find, let me tell you. I got a meal made by the owner's pet rat, called William. Still nothing. Can't even get a decent case of food poisoning in a town these days. In my day and age, you went in fear of your life every time you went into a street cafe. There was your basic food poisoning, your lead poisoning from the cooking pots, ground glass from the mixing pestles.
Yes, look, I really have to go.
And it bloody cost me 17 pence. 17! Just for a bit of fly-blown blowfish. For that kind of money, you'd expect them to throw in William the Rat as well. I ask you, how's a body supposed to get its last rites in this day and age? I am going to die if it's the last thing I do.
Indeed. I think Last Rites is one of the books? Question mark? To correct me on that one. Poor Windle. You gotta feel bad for him. He is a great character, and I vastly enjoy him in Discworld 2 more than I do in Discworld 1. Okay, Granny, I want to examine your broom first.
Aha, a broom. I've heard of the theory behind them, of course, but there's usually bylaws against apprentice wizards using them.
Leave that alone. It's not for the likes of you.
Yep, we can't just take it off her.
Now, Granny isn't the sort who suffers fools gladly. As a suffering fool myself, I'll go along with that.
Okay, but we are going to have to trick Granny. Granny is... she's smart, she's intelligent, but she's also sometimes easily manipulated. But often harmlessly, so, you know, we're gonna be helpful here. We just need to sort of be a bit of a meanie for a minute.
Hello there, young man. Having a good day?
This is clearly some attempt at sarcasm.
No, this is an attempt at sarcasm.
Haven't you got anything better to do than sit here all day?
Well, it's not every day I get to see a man torn to pieces by a giant elf.
Oh, yes. Point taken. Are you sure this is where you want to be? I mean, it's not exactly safe, is it?
I don't know. The safest place seems to be wherever you are. I heard all those comments you made about the animation budget, you see.
She's right there, you know.
True. Can we have a broom?
No.
I haven't even asked it yet.
Oh, all right. Ask away.
That's better. Now, can I have the flying broom, please?
No.
Right. There, see? It doesn't hurt to follow the correct forms. Now, if you don't mind, it looks like I'll have to get busy going on a silly quest to wrinkle the wretched thing out of you. Waiting to see me get croaked, is she? Only the fact that this is the last scene of the game makes me refrain from saying something really acidic.
Indeed. There is, however, one thing we can do. We do need the broom. I don't really know why. I do, technically. Rincewind shouldn't know why, apart from for flying up there and saving the librarian on it. But let's talk about this raven, shall we?
You can swap minds with this raven, can you?
Borrowing.
Yes, I'm very good at it.
Oh, go on. You can't possibly manage to put all your knowledge and experience into that tiny little avian brain?
Of course I can. Just watch.
Clunk. I love how the broom just drops dead. And there you go, she's now inside the raven.
What a clever woman. Clever, yet oddly dumb.
And off she goes, just flying off.
Now, Granny isn't the sort as a that would be cruel.
Trying to talk to her while she's kind of comatose, I suppose. Let's have this broom. Fantastic.
Your typical flying witch's broom. Looks like it's past its 1,000-mile warranty.
I mean, it has been around a long time. This broom specifically, Granny's broom, is like terrible. It's just shot. It's really, really bad. When flying around Lanka to do the spell, she needed a whole bunch of help from the rest of her coven for it, just to get this broom to go around, because it was crap.
Wood and straw. What more can I say?
Right, let's take the broom and give it to Rincewind. And let's, well, we're going to be throwing bladders. Full of water, I suspect. There we go.
Animal bladders filled with water. We could be onto something here.
Indeed.
Wow. All smooth, round and sploshy.
That's it. We have our ammunition. We have our mode of transport, if I can actually click on Rincewind. One mode of transport, one set of ammunition. This should be it. Let's grab the broom, use it on the tower, and let's see the finale of the game.
Bladders! Get your bladders here! Is it now? The dead are supposed to rest in peace, you know. Run! It's a falling giant woman! And that's another thing. In my day, girls were sweet, demure little things, not 60-foot tall monsters like you apparently get now. And I'm also pretty sure that in my day, they all actually wore something under
sometime later.
So, it's you at last, is it? So where do you think you've been?
Sorry. It's been a bit of a confusing week.
Confusing? I've been undead since 10:30 on Tuesday morning. I mean, I wouldn't complain, but I lost 17 pence just on blowfish since I died. You'd think the afterlife would be cheaper, wouldn't you?
Well, I've said sorry, haven't I? Come on, let's have a curry before we go. My treat.
Ah, well, all right, that is rather decent of you. By the way, I tried strangulation, drowning, poison, traffic accidents. I even listened to improvised jazz music. But that just made me wish I was dead. Or that the musicians were dead at any rate. How did I finally manage to go?
You got sat on by a giant elven queen.
Now there's one I never thought of trying. Still, if you gotta go...
There's a place you're always welcome, that's as nice as it can be. Everyone can get in, 'cause it's absolutely free. That's death. No need to take a breath, just lie around all day with not a single bill to pay. Hooray, that's death. No more sicknesses or flu. If you've lived beyond your means, you can die beyond them too. Boo-hoo. Well, the greatest and the finest have already died. Why not simply join them on the other side? That's death. Say farewell to all your bills, rip up all your wills, and pop your final pills. Amen, that's death. It's a tete-a-tete with fate. If you're not feeling great, then it's the best way to lose weight, mate. Nothing here to hurt you, no one's here to nag. Come die with me if your life's a drag. That's death. For wealthy and well-bred, all of them are here, and they're all completely dead. That's death. No more headaches, no more pain. Of the millions who died, no one came back to complain. You can't take it with you. You can't keep what you've got. So why not just lie back and simply rot? Just simply rot. It's so cool, it's hot. And that's death.
I guess they were just really, really happy with that animation, so they reused it. And I can't complain. Great animation. Also interesting to think that Eric Idle is probably best known in at least one capacity for singing a song about dying, always look on the bright side of life, and here he is singing another song about death too. Curious, right? So, that is the end of the game. Discworld 2 Missing Presumed is over, but we are not quite done. There's still bits and pieces in the manual that I'd like to go over, not too much actually, and that Easter egg that I promised, which we will do. But first, the manual and I may get interrupted at some point by the bits and pieces of the demo reel running in the background. So first of all, just bits and pieces that I wasn't able to include throughout the gameplay, so just stuff that we missed, because I might as well. First of all is the story so far, which you probably should have read right at the start of the game, but I had so much preamble right at the start that I didn't want to do that. So it's a typical night in Ankh-Morpork. The Thieves Guild is busy making up its socially acceptable quota of thefts and muggings, the Beggars Guild is busy being truly unwholesome, and the Assassins Guild is getting ready to inhume another client. Tonight's client has been paid for by a very exclusive employer, one who demands something a little more dramatic than the average inhumation. And now we know who that was. It was the Patrician. And I think that's about it, right? So yeah, that's the story so far, which you probably should have read, like, at the start of the game, or before you even installed it, but hey, too much stuff to read. And now you got the minimum specification to read. Actually, let's just go all the way through from the start. So of course we've got this logo, the copyright information, blah blah blah. We've got some bits and pieces here. We now know that this welcome is Death's Door. Apt, very apt indeed. Bits of Latin here on Death's family crest, perhaps. Non timetis messor is supposed to mean don't fear the Reaper in Latin, but it's not quite right, and I don't think anybody truly agrees on if it's even close or whatever. Tempus Fugit, of course, I believe is Time Flies, but I could be completely off on that. It's the foreword, bits and pieces of art, of course. Death looking rather fantastic here in the luggage. See, I haven't really drawn any attention to these things, this weird beetle with a skull on it. I haven't drawn attention to the illustrations in here, but I'm sure you've been looking at them as I've been reading this stuff. Dwarf, Great Atuin, Trolls, the art building, the Tower of Art at Unseen You. This is Ankh-Morpork. This dude, who I still don't really know who it is, you would think maybe it's talking about Death's Domain, so it'd be like Albert or something, but like Albert doesn't have a crossbow, so I don't know. Hey, post-commentary Mike here again, back from part 1. I actually went and looked this up. This is Mustrum Ridiculi. This is the current Arch-Chancellor, assuming the post in moving pictures, and holding it for the rest of the novels. I had no idea. He loves hunting, owns several crossbows, and is much given to using the corridors of Unseen University as a shooting range. Well, there you go. It's never mentioned what his name is in this game, so I had no idea. Now you do. Just some books and the librarian, of course. This thing, is this the book that was frozen in the tank in Discworld 1 with the chain attached? Could be. Imps, film reel, the art. Ugly buggers, aren't they? Obviously the system requirements nowadays don't matter whatsoever. Some introduction on how to do things. Actually here, using the mouse, all the game activities in the Discworld 2 can be controlled by using a mouse. If you do not own a mouse, then see using the keyboard section later in the manual. Mouse buttons are used in 3 different ways. Here there's note here, number 18, chances are that if you own a mouse, you know how to operate it. However, since it would be tragic for you to wake up one morning and have forgotten how to use a mouse, we have included instructions. Little bunny thing here. A hint on what to do. Make sure that you sweep around and see all the tags, and make sure that you've got all that stuff and information. There it is. There we go, all this information is stuff that I've covered in the Let's Play so far. Here's Death on his attempted skeletal horse that I talked about in the last part. Clearly its head's fallen off, which is why he uses Binky. A bit more practical, right? They can move around. Rincewind not being quite so willing to be put in harm's way and stuff like that. There's information that you can look at. This is basically just controls and how the game works. The options, how to alt F4 out of a thing. Where is this note 19? One possible use might be to annoy whoever was playing the game before you came and swapped the mouse buttons around. This is apparently something to do with the controls. Ah, here we go. You can swap the mouse buttons around if you wish to. If you want to annoy somebody else, or if you're just left-handed perhaps. Requires a minimum of 8 megabytes of RAM to run. Oh, jeez. We're asking a lot these days, aren't we? Here's the credits. Death of Rats. Fantastic stuff. Love all the art. More credits, of course. Terry Pratchett. Ah dear. And I think this might be the final bit. Papilio Tempesti, or quantum weather butterflies. Thankfully these aren't in existence in this game, because L-Space and all that stuff was very confusing in the first. Yeah, this is the last bit of, like, stuff to read, I suppose. The Unseen University's questionable taxonomy of animals. If you should encounter a strange animal during your travels around the Discworld, do not panic. The following questions will enable you to identify even the most unusual of entities. Can you see it properly? If yes, go to 4. If no, go to 2. Is it invisible or just moving fast? If it is invisible, it's a shadowing lemur, a legendary creature which stalks and eats mathematicians. If it is moving fast, go to 3. So if it's moving fast, are you in a library? If yes, it's probably a 303 bookworm, the fastest insect on the disc. It evolved in a magical library, or in magical libraries, where it's necessary to eat extremely quickly to avoid being affected by the thormic radiations. If you're not in a library, if no, it's probably an ambiguous Pizuma, fastest animal on the disc. Like a puma, but a Pizuma? Question mark. The Pizuma is extremely neurotic and moves so fast that it can actually achieve near light speed in the disc's magical field. This means that by the time you can see one, it isn't there. Most male Pizumas die young of acute ankle failure caused by running very fast after females, which aren't there, and of course achieving suicidal mass, in accordance with relativistic theory. So, can you see it properly? If yes, is it winged? Go to 8. If no, go to 5. So, it's not winged and we can see it properly. Is it taller than 1 foot? I'm starting to get very lost in this flowchart here. So we ask if it's taller than 1 foot. If no, then is it abseiling down a cliff or building a boat? If yes, then it's a vermine, a distant and more careful relative of the lemming. It only throws itself over small pebbles. The point is that most dead animals don't breed, and over the millennia, more and more vermin are descendants of those vermin who, when faced with a cliff edge, squeal the rodent equivalent of, blow that for a game of soldiers. In other words, going, that's a stupid idea. Let's not do that. And if no, it could be an inflatable mongoose, a creature in whom evolution has found an efficient way of dealing with burrowing snakes. The next question, is it attempting to conceal itself ineffectually? If yes, it is a hermit elephant, a very shy, thin-skinned species, which for preference wears abandoned huts for protection and concealment. It does not find these hard to obtain. Few people remain in a hut once an elephant has joined them. If no, it could be a ram-top sheep, best known for its wool, which can be knitted into vests of almost chainmail quality. Alright, is it a bird? Is it a plane? Superman? Etc. If yes, go to 9, and if no, it's probably a quantum weather butterfly. An insect capable of altering the weather at a distance by flapping its wings and capable of defeating even the cockiest game players almost single-handedly. Big reference to Discworld 1 there, with the monk and, of course, us. Is it attempting to take photos? If yes, it's a pointless albatross, a bird capable of flying from the hub to the rim without landing. When it does land, it seems to do nothing except to wander around taking photographs. So if it's not, then is it walking around rather than flying? If yes or if no, it could be a lanker suicide thrush. Where most thrushes break open snails by banging them on a stone, this species attempts to dive bomb them. Finally, does it have a distinctive call resembling a malfunctioning digestive system? If yes, it's a scalby, a seabird related to the crow. It seldom flies, walking everywhere in a lurching hop and looking like other birds do after an oil slick. Nothing eats scalbies except other scalbies. Scalbies eat things that would make a vulture sick. Scalbies would eat vulture sick. And if no, it could be a lappet-faced warrior or wowhawk, a bird related to the goshawk but less foreful. Small and short-sighted, it prefers to walk everywhere and faints at the sight of blood. It would take several warriors to kill even a small sick pigeon, and they would probably do it by boring it to death. Finally, just some stuff at the back of the manual. Bit of a strange thing here, an advert for a game guide, which you can buy for £15. Jeez, maybe not, huh? A t-shirt offer, great, or you can go and buy Paul Kidby's Discworld print. Here's a telephone that probably doesn't exist anymore. And finally, Terry Pratchett inviting us to read the actual books, which I would strongly recommend, actually. From all good booksellers, I presume, and also this has broken my whole overlay by showing you that the odd page doesn't exist here. But yeah, that's the manual for Discworld 2 Missing Presumed. Finally, there is one final thing to show that I promised, and that is, if I find the right load, this, the Easter egg. Now then, this is an Easter egg I did actually find as a kid because I was bad at the game and I was just bad. In order to activate this Easter egg, you can enter and exit these stones 5 times without skipping any of the cutscenes, so we'll start doing that now. If you skip any of the cutscenes of entering or exiting, it doesn't count. But it will still remember that you've gone in and out an X number of times, which is why I was able to find it as a kid, because I was in and out of this realm multiple times, forgetting what the hell I was doing. You don't have to do it in a row, you can leave the area and come back later, and it will still remember your count. But you have to enter and exit 5 times, and then you'll get a different scene. There's a grand total of 4 of these scenes, so we've entered and exited once now. Remember, you cannot skip this. You cannot skip these cutscenes, and it's such a silly little thing that you can't do that. And yeah, if you do attempt to skip, then it just doesn't count. There's a total of 4 of these scenes, so you have to enter and exit 20 times to see all of them. But there's actually a very, very, very secret hidden 5th one that only works if you have the Suffragester on you, and if you use the Suffragester before you do any of this stuff. So this is our 3rd entry into the Ice Queen... Ice Queen? What is this, Narnia? The Elf Queen's realm. Alright, here's number 4. And yeah, I am opting to do this in real time to show you that I'm not just making a bunch of stuff up. I do have saves for all the other ones. We're not going to do this 20 times, we're only going to do this 5 and then do the rest through the saves that I've got. There you go, there's 4, let's leave. So this will be the 5th entrance, and on the 5th entrance we'll see something a little bit different. Oh, this looks familiar.
Hey, I remember this. Aha! Things have changed, haven't they? Who are you? I'm you, just better drawn and animated. Just look at those jagged pixels, not to mention that mono voice. Please tell me what's going on. I'm from the sequel, and there's been a few changes, I can tell you. Higher resolution, a wizard must look the goods, you know. Better sound? After all, my voice isn't supplied by just anybody, you know? Longer rest periods between quests, less walking, that sort of thing. For the life of me, I don't see why they don't just have lots of film clips. I could sleep through the whole game then. Well, if you're from the sequel, then perhaps you could help me. I've been wandering around here for days like a puppet on a string. That person playing this game has no idea. Could you please explain to me that thing about butterflies and lampposts? Are you kidding? That's not going to help you. Honestly, some people. Look, I'm afraid I have to be somewhere else. Be seeing you then. Goodbye for now.
And off he goes. So yeah, just a fun little fourth wall breaking thing if you do that a number of times. So there's 3 more of those that we can see. And I believe, let's see, egg 2, 3 and 4. You'll also notice that I've got special and 5 here, but let's have a look at 2 first. So I've saved this at my 9th entrance, so if I go in here I'll get the 10th and get the next scene. The first part of the dialogue is always the same, but the second part is different. So let's go and hear that.
Oh dear, that deja vu headache is coming on again. Who are you? I'm you, just better drawn and animated. Just look at those jagged pixels, not to mention that mono voice. Please tell me what's going on. I'm from the sequel, and there's been a few changes, I can tell you. Higher resolution, a wizard must look the goods, you know. Better sound, after all, my voice isn't supplied by just anybody, you know. Longer rest periods between quests, less walking, that sort of thing. Well, at least this keeps you off the streets. Well, if you're from the sequel, then perhaps you could help me. I've been wandering around here for days like a puppet on a string. That person playing this game has no idea. Could you please explain to me that thing about butterflies and lampposts? Now look, we've had words about this kind of thing before. You come home from a long day's work, you switch on the computer and spend hour after hour fiddling about with object combinations, never quite getting it right. Ah, now there's satisfaction for you. If ever you're in Ankh-Morpork, then look me up. Goodbye! See you later!
Yeah, remember, if you don't know what you're doing in these games, then you're gonna just, like, combine random magnets with undead mice, you know, start using random items on other items and having absolutely no progress whatsoever. So that's the second. Let's go for the third now. Bear in mind, to get this dialogue, you have to go in and out of this set of stones 15 times, so we're already sort of taking the mickey here. And if you're not paying attention, because it takes a minute or two to actually do that, then you're not even going to notice that the second part of the dialogue is different, because the first part will throw you off.
It's amazing, I think I've had this deja vu before. Who are you? I'm you, just better drawn and animated. Just look at those jagged pixels, not to mention that mono voice. Please tell me what's going on. I'm from the sequel, and there's been a few changes, I can tell you. Higher resolution, a wizard must look the goods, you know. Better sound, after all, my voice isn't supplied by just anybody, you know. Longer rest periods between quests, less walking, that sort of thing. For the life of me, I don't see why they don't just have lots of film clips. I could sleep through the whole game then. Well, if you're from the sequel, then perhaps you could help me. I've been wandering around here for days like a puppet on a string. That person playing this game has no idea. Could you please explain to me that thing about butterflies and lampposts? No, not in any shape, way or form. Not in any permutation or restatement. Allow me to compliment the game designers for establishing a logic system completely at odds with a real, rational world. Sort of explains a lot, doesn't it? Well, who'd have thought, eh? Look, I'm afraid I have to be somewhere else. See you later. Goodbye!
Alright, there is just one more of these scenes to look at. Which should be egg 4. This is the fourth and final piece of dialogue that most people that have found this stuff will be aware of and will have seen. This is after 20 entrances into the stones, which takes quite a bit of time, let me tell you.
Ow, my back, my aching back. This place looks like a good place to sleep. You know, there's something familiar about this whole scene. Who are you? And you, there's something familiar about your voice. Yeah, the graphics may have changed, but the voice is definitely the same. Please tell me what's going on. I'm from the sequel, and there's been a few changes, I can tell you. Higher resolution, a wizard must look the goods, you know. Better sound, after all my voice isn't supplied by just anybody, you know. Longer rest periods between quests, less walking, that sort of thing. Well, at least this keeps you off the streets. Well, if you're from the sequel, then perhaps you could help me. I've been wandering around here for days like a puppet on a string. The person playing this game has no idea. Could you please explain to me that thing about butterflies and lampposts? Read the hint book, have we? Well, just play properly and not spoil it for everybody else. Fascinating, isn't it? The length of desperate stupidity some people will go to just to solve a game. Sorry, can't stay and chat all day. Must be off. Be seeing you then. Goodbye for now.
You see, this is literally the start of the game. Either the player has restarted because they got so lost, or they did read the hint book because Rincewind at that point shouldn't know about the butterflies and the lampposts. So maybe he did read the hint book. Who knows? So, for those of you that know, I've been holding off on something a bit odd, and for those of you that don't, I'm about to be quite strange. So, remember when I made the stones save back in Act 2? Let's go back there. Now, remember when I had the suffragette in my inventory and said, hey, make a save here because you need to have her for this thing to work. I'm going to take this stick, any item is whatever for this example. I mean, this sticker, the pick, literally anything at all. I'm going to take the sticker, in fact, and I'm going to use it on Rincewind.
Fascinating, isn't it? The length of desperate stupidity some people will go to just to solve a game.
Okay, I'll use it on him again.
I think you might be confusing me with someone who actually wants to exert themselves.
I'll use it on him again.
I've got a better idea. I'll go out there and play the game, and you come in here and risk life and limb, okay?
And again.
Fascinating, isn't it?
So, all different responses that we get out of that, but they're all responses that we get, they're all generic responses that we get for anything else.
I think you might be confusing me with someone who actually wants to exert themselves.
Right.
I've got a better idea.
So we've heard all that stuff. Any item will give us any of that response. This suffragette is particularly different. So if we take the suffragette, this, by the way, is before we've gone in and out of the circle at all. You're going to need to do this before you do that, otherwise it will confuse things. You're also going to need to do this before you've gone in, and you're probably going to have to go in and out of the circle 15 to 25 times, so be prepared to do a very annoying set of actions for this. Anyway, take the suffragette, use it on Rincewind.
Let's just leave her alone.
That's once.
Let's just leave her alone.
That's twice.
Let's just leave her alone.
That's 3 times. He doesn't have any other dialogue. I'm now going to use it a whole bunch of times.
Let's just leave her alone. 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 Let's just leave her alone.
That's 11 times I've used it on Rincewind now. The 12th time is a little bit special.
Not a bad idea, but the legs seem to get in the way.
That's odd, isn't it? Why did we get different dialogue? Why for 12 interactions with it? Who knows? And also that was why I was confused about the ironing board and the surfing earlier on. That's the dialogue you get if you try to use the ironing board to surf with. Now then, we've used the suffragette on Rincewind 12 times. If you use it on him again, it breaks. It will not work. At this point, the Easter egg is set up. Deposit the suffragette, and now spend who knows how long going in and out of the stones over and over and over and over again until you get all of the previous dialogues that I've just showed you, all the different Easter eggs. On the I don't know if this is random or if it's just the 25th one. It took me 25 entrances and exits to get this one to play. but it is very strange and very special. I'm not going to do this straight up, that's just the setup that I've shown you. Do all of that, go in and out 25 times. I, though, have a save for it on the 24th entrance. This will be my 25th entrance and the special Easter egg. Bear in mind just how ridiculous this was to set up. You need an item that you need to use and will lose. You need to use it 12 times, and if you use it any more or any less, it won't work. Here we go.
It's amazing, I think I've had this deja vu before. Who are you? I'm you, just better drawn and animated. Just look at those jagged pixels, not to mention that mono voice. Please tell me what's going on. I'm from the sequel, and there's been a few changes, I can tell you. Higher resolution, a wizard must look the good, you know. Better sound, after all my voice isn't supplied by just anybody, you know. Longer rest periods between quests, less walking, that sort of thing. For the life of me, I don't see why they don't just have lots of film clips. I could sleep through the whole game then. Well, if you're from the sequel, then perhaps you could help me. I've been wandering around here for days like a puppet on a string. The person playing this game has no idea. Could you please explain to me that thing about butterflies and lampposts? No, not in any shape, way or form. Not in any permutation or restatement. Allow me to compliment the game designers for establishing a logic system completely at odds with a real, rational world. Sort of explains a lot, doesn't it? I want to be the first person in the game to say Not one of your better ideas, I'm afraid. Been there, done that. Let's leave well enough alone. What do you mean I've already said it? All right then. I want to be the first person in a sequel to say Anyway, nobody wrote in and said they'd heard it in the first game. It must have been too well hidden. Well, who'd have thought, eh? Look, I'm afraid I have to be somewhere else. See you later. Goodbye!
I bet you weren't expecting that. And that's true. It did exist in the first game, and I didn't know about it then when I Let's Played that. It is so precise in the first game, and it's also not bleeped. In the first game, if you trigger the Easter egg by clicking on 4 very precise pixels and then some other series of events that you need to do, Rincewind will just straight up say the F word. Like Eric Idle will just be like, breaking character, I'm saying F. I'm doing it, I've said it. Which is so strange. But yeah, that wasn't bleeped then, and then Psygnosis found out about it and went, hey, if you're gonna do that again, we can't have it. And yes, it had already been put into this game, they knew, and so it was therefore bleeped. It's actually a funny reference to specifically John Cleese's eulogy at Graham Chapman's funeral. We're talking about Monty Python lads here, where he said that Chapman whispered in his ear the previous night that he wanted Cleese to be the first person to say it at a British memorial. And then Eric Idle wanted to be the last person at the meeting to say it as well. So, there you have it. Discworld 2, Missing Presumed, Mortality Bites, and this weirdest Easter egg in a game that I've ever played myself personally. Probably not the weirdest or the most obscure one ever, but certainly the one that I know about. I deeply hope that you guys have enjoyed watching me play this game. I've certainly enjoyed playing it and showing it, because it's one of the games I loved as a kid, and I don't think I'll ever not enjoy this game. It's great. It's just so well written and performed. So yeah, thanks very much for hanging out with me, and go read the Discworld books, because they're really, really good. I know this. Anyway, cheers for watching. See you guys next time.